Sergey, I want to talk a little bit to you about this strategic reserve, this idea that, there are a lot of folks in the crypto industry who say, yeah, we should have a reserve, but then you have the Bitcoin maxis who over the weekend and in the early part of the week spent a lot of time saying, wait a second, why are we seeing some of these lesser known digital tokens be included in President Trump's comments around this? What say you?
I think it's important to keep in mind what the role of a reserve is. So a reserve is almost like a backstop, and in the asset-backed view, kind of a way to justify the underlying security of an asset, like in this case, the U.S. financial system, the U.S. economy, the dollar, right? So what you would want from a reserve, in my opinion, and what you want from like a gold reserve, is that asset-backed view, that asset is inversely correlated with some other set of events, right? So if there's some set of extreme events, gold becomes more valuable. And so this is why the central banks have all been buying gold in record numbers. And so the crypto reserve, or any reserve, really has to create this inversely correlated relationship, right? You're basically practicing diversification. And so then the question becomes, once you define what the role of a reserve is, what is the benefit of including one coin or another coin in that reserve? And the fundamental answer to that is that it creates this inversely correlated relationship with something else happening that you're not currently protected against. And so the question there is, how does a reserve composed of these various tokens give you that greater assurance of being protected and inversely correlated and diversified against these other events? And it seems like the general idea right now is to have an index, right? So you have an index of tokens that basically create an inverse correlation on a holistic industry basis rather than just through Bitcoin. But Bitcoin does have a very clear thesis that it is inversely correlated with certain events in the state actor world, how the traditional financial system is developing. So I would view a crypto reserve as a mechanism for diversification and a way to create an asset backstop for the U.S. economy, U.S. financial system, U.S. dollar, and so on.
Sergey, there are quite a lot of U.S. dollars out there. Even in the kind of most extreme versions of the reserve that have been proposed, like Cynthia Lummis's plan to have the U.S. spend $100 billion of taxpayer money on buying Bitcoins, that wouldn't really be very big compared to the amount of dollars out there. How is this reserve actually going to help support anything? Or do you think it'll be much, much bigger?
I mean, you could say the same about the gold reserve, right? The gold reserve doesn't support anywhere near the amount of dollars in existence. This happened, when we went off the gold standard. And so I don't think reserves fundamentally function the way that reserves used to function. But I do think that at the same time, the thesis of diversification does make sense. It's one of the most basic kind of theses of the financial system and markets. And so if you're creating reserves, or you're going back towards the pattern of having reserves, and the sovereign wealth fund might be another one of these things where it's a pattern of some kind of reserves of some other assets, you would ideally, if you were making reserves for yourself or for your company, you would practice diversification. So the way that I view it is not that it has to one-to-one match with everything. That possibility is lost to us when we went off the gold standard. It's really, I think, a matter of what is the composition of a reserve. Right now, the composition is gold, which is definitely inversely correlated with various negative global events. Now there's another category of reserve, such as Bitcoin and whatever other assets that fall into the category of a crypto reserve. Mm-hmm. And then maybe there's another category of the reserve, which is the assets in the sovereign wealth fund. But I think if you add all of those up together with gold, you still won't meet the standard of one-to-one backing of every U.S. dollar. That's just not how fractional reserve banking works. That's not how fiat works, right? Fiat is let there be. So, okay, we went off the gold standard and that's it. That was the choice.